In today's show, we have another multi-topic episode, where first we discuss, is Australia the thin edge of internet freedom? And then we discuss, have we just witnessed a civilization handover?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Taya Boya. Taya, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you keep it safe and well and be cheery.
Oh, God. As a character in a book written by, it was originally a book written by Douglas Adams called Marvin the Android.
Well, as he's the book, was it? That was not
sorry?
The book. He was
originally.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, no. He was a character. Marvin was a character in what was originally a book.
Yeah.
But many of the younger generation might not know that it was a book because they might have seen the film or the series, or heard one of the other things. So Marvin, to quote him, said, "Just when you thought things couldn't get worse, they suddenly do." And that's you coming along with this blooming thing you do every week. Anyway, could you do
a sound test? Sorry, I'm just hearing a buzz.
A buzz?
Move that ever so slightly. Yeah, talk again.
Again, blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's better. Cool. It was just rubbing on
too close.
Something.
Oh,
yeah,
I
that
see.
Was all. Cool.
Right. So we got this. First of all, hello to the audience. Hello and welcome to the show. And today we're going to give a special shout out to. I love this place, by the way. I've always had, for some weird reason, romantic feelings towards the place. I've never been there. It's in Canada. I've never been to Canada. But I just love the name, Manitoba. There's something, I just find it cute, Manitoba.
It's nice, it rolls off the tongue, Manitoba.
It does, doesn't it? And it's actually, it's very interesting. Well, Manitoba is not what's interesting. What's interesting is it's got this place called Winnipeg. And we're actually saying hello to someone in Winnipeg, because Winnipeg is a city in Manitoba. Manitoba is an area.
See. Right.
And Winnipeg is interesting because it comes from the Ojibwe, which is the Native American, if you want to call them the natives, right, of the area, the Ojibwe, or Ojibwa. I've heard them spoken of in films. In the old days of cowboys and Indians, the Indians were sometimes called Ojibwa, but Ojibwe as I understand it. And the name Winnipeg comes from Winnippie. Winnipie, meaning
Canada.
Murky water.
Oh.
So, yes, murky water.
Welcome again, listeners from that area. Thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to our ramblings of daftness, but enjoy it nonetheless.
And we just hope you've cleaned up the water since then.
Well,
don't drink the water, man. Boil it. Right, and now my question for you.
Okay. Is this a horrible one like last time?
What was the last time?
You left
the oxygenated water that goes up your bum.
Oxygenated stuff.
No, this is one.
Our listeners are probably wondering, what's he on about? If you've not heard it, go back to one of our previous shows, recent shows, and hear about Tayo's question. You would probably not enjoy that.
Actually,
go back anyway.
It's a challenge. Yes, see if you do enjoy it. All we can say is you're very weird. Okay, which was part of the shtick. Okay, so here my question today is this, and this I think will twist a lot of people's minds, including yours.
Okay,
twisted my mind. So try this out. Now you have to suspend your belief, or when you go to watch a film, you have to, what is it called? Temporary suspension of belief, so you can go along with the.
Yeah.
Okay.
You follow the
narrative. What would happen if the Borg, you know them from Star Wars, from Star Trek?
Yeah.
You know the Borg?
Yeah.
What would happen if the Borg made the mistake of assimilating Bugs Bunny?
This is a joke.
Well, yeah, but what? So here it is. It's a mental exercise. I believe it was an interview question. What does your mind think? If you are you creative? What do you think would happen in a universe where the Borg might end up assimilating Bugs Bunny? What would happen?
I don't think that his gene or his character would be strong enough to override the Borg collective. He would just be another mind added into the collective, so the collective will still continue as the Borg.
That is fascinating, because that is something fundamental. I think that's probably why they asked the question. It's fundamental about how you interact, or how you natively think about authority and so on and so forth. Because I'm very opposite to you. I think Bugs Bunny would eventually reduce the Borg into a quivering mess. Because his lack of logic would infect them. and the things that they were so comfortable with before, that this worked, and if you did this would happen. But in Bugs Bunny's world, if you don't realize that you have left the cliff, you're still able to walk in a straight line. And you're okay until you realize, hang on, there's no cliff here. Then you look down, and then gravity... It's only then that gravity acts on you. So you imagine that you're the Borg and all these certainties. Oh yeah, this is certain. Science, this, technology. And all of that is just like, maybe. Or maybe not. That would destroy the Borg. Anyway, so I just wanted our audience to think about that. And writing, Tony will do all the writing in stuff.
Yes. If you want to write in and see what you think of that question and whether you agree with Tayo, then email us. It's on the screen if you're watching us on a video platform, but if you're just hearing us on audio, then the email address is tnttalkshow@mail.com. No spaces in any of that. I'll repeat it, tnttalkshow@mail.com. So yes, please write in. Let us know what you think of that question. And any other thing that you care to inform us about, whether you like the show, what you dislike about it, any topics you think we should cover. Please continue to like, comment and subscribe on any platform you happen to be consuming our show on, or like we've already said, if you want to get in touch by email, please do as well. Right, today's show, we got to move on. We hope again to have more than one topic to discuss, but we'll see what the time will be like. But we start with the first one. And this one is an interesting one because it's quite relevant. Is Australia the thin edge of internet freedom? Now, those of you who aren't aware, I don't know if Ty wants to fill us in.
No,
What's just recently happened in Australia? Do you want to explain it? Do you want me to do it? Okay. Now, Australia have done something which is quite a landmark just recently. They've introduced a new act called the Social Media Minimum Age Act. And basically, it's banning access for anyone under 16 for all the social media platforms. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, X, Facebook, etc. So basically, it's asking everybody to authenticate, to prove who they are. And they're doing it to protect children, because they're fed up that social media platforms have said they'll govern themselves and will protect children, but more and more there's evidence to show that children are being affected negatively, especially in mental health, whilst using social media platforms. And the social media companies haven't really done much about it, so the Australian government has now introduced this ban. Now the problem with it is, if you have to authenticate, then that means adults need to do it in order to use the said platforms, and it will mean that they have to authenticate online, not just to use the platforms, but you're now authenticating with a digital ID, which is taking a different approach to prove who you are. So that's the nature of why Australia is on the thin end of this internet freedom. What has this done to their liberty, first off, and secondly, how they use the internet?
Well, that's a masterful presentation of the good question. The idea being floated is in itself, for me at any rate, a welcome one. It is an interesting one. Just this morning, I was somewhere doing something quite cryptic, nothing untoward. I was just somewhere, and a woman nearby was distracted. I wanted to placate her. Well, little boy is less than a year old, so he's very little. He was in his pram, but it was becoming a little bit fractious, a little bit, uncomfortable. Maybe the lack of attention, or maybe the upset tummy. Who knows? Whatever. So he started sort of ramping up the complaints, if you like. And to quiet him, she was going to give him a screen. Just put something on a phone, I think it was, and maybe cartoons or something.
At 1 years old.
Yeah,
2
yes.
years old. That year.
No, no, under one. I happened because when he was born, I was aware. So not a year yet. I was like, no, don't do that. We know now that screens harm children. You've got to do something else. And other people around me piped up and were like, yeah, you should. Don't do that. So apparently his mother wasn't aware, young mother, and we're like, there's actually an idea rather than a petition. I think there's an idea. I don't know if it's been signed yet by anyone, that we shouldn't even expose children under the age of, I think it's 11 or something, to screens, apart from maybe TV or something. But these little screens, the less they see, the better, because this is why they don't have the ability to take social cues, because they were brought up by screens. Yeah. And that idea translates into social media. We got children who are being cyberbullied, and I wasn't aware of the depth of this, because they're all on social media, and it is easy to get likes, but it's also easier to be ostracized.
Yeah.
And this has this mental health effect that's having. And apart from all that, well, I'll get into this later. But so there is actually a problem that needs to be solved. It's not for me. It's not government overreach. It's government trying to do something because something needs to be done. So it's welcome in that respect. The problem is that there are problems with it.
Yes.
That's the thing.
It's you see, it's like we had a discussion about digital IDs generally, but in the UK predominantly, and the fear. Okay, a lot of the things that digital IDs provide currently or on offer is pretty much what is currently available with existing channels, except it's far easier to manage. And if it stayed in the form that they're advertising it as, then yes, it is a good thing. It can make things easier for individuals, it makes things easier for authentication, everything's tickety-boo. I apologise for that expression. That's
I was actually thinking to myself.
Some people are going to go, "Hey, what's he just said?"
That's pretty rad for people who are not familiar with that expression. It's a very nice one. So
yeah, meaning that's an English phrase. So I do apologise, but I'll explain it. It's just like everything is okay. It's all working fine. That's great. However, the problem is a lot of this is all well intentioned if one government brings something in and they say this is what it's going to do, they can be held accountable to what that's going to do. However, subsequent governments come in, can take that existing one and think, well, actually, we're a bit more draconian in our viewpoint. We'll add extra bits to it that we think it's safer for everybody to have this security, etc., etc. So you get scope creep, and you get function creep. So it goes beyond its original scope of what it was intended, and it's very rare where they undo a lot of the things that they add. Instead, they add to it, so it does more and more, and that's the fear. So a lot of the fear on digital IDs is probably not correct in its present form, but people are predicting what it would be like in a few years' time, and those fears could be realized. So we get that. So hence people say, oh no, in that case we shouldn't have it. Well, no, what you do is you need to have enough guardrails in place, so when you implement a technology such as this, the guardrails are set in law that cannot be changed unless a referendum allows it, to then increase the scope of what the digital IDs were first touted to do. So that's the key. It's ensuring that the right guardrails are in place to put something in like this. So what Australia are doing in the outset, see, we've already discussed it, it sounds great, because now the Australian government is now the safety officer, because the social media companies are not responsible enough to do it themselves, so the government's now going to do it. So they're now going to issue IDs, well, not IDs, but to prove people's age through verification, before they are then permitted to then use social media in Australia. Now, is that overreach? Don't know. It's what we discussed today.
I would say that you are being somewhat naive in thinking that you could create guardrails. You see, the people who craft the guardrails would be the same people who benefit from making sure that those are weak guardrails that can be eventually easily circumvented. So
I'm not
once
so sure
once
about that.
well,
the
yeah,
judiciary should be able to put, because they're supposed to be independent in democracies, and so they can see.
Supposed
when,
to be but they're objectively not. They're objectively establishment. I mean, they're the heart of the establishment. So you could say that, but it's not going to happen. And they're not even the ones who crafted. It's Whitehall, and this is Whitehall is the seat of government here in the UK. It's Whitehall functionaries who would craft it, and they'll be crafting it as they've been doing for almost centuries now, in the way that suits them best, and suits the bureaucracy best. So they're going to give the appearance of guardrails, but he said, okay, we need a referendum to do this. All right, you'll have a referendum. I'm just thinking off the top of my head to respond to a point that you've just made. I'm not prepared because you didn't tell me what point you're going to make, so I'm sure I could come up with a better example, but just off the top of my head, you could create a guardrail that says you'll have a referendum, but the referendum will have to be in this format, and the format itself would be ultimately defeating the purpose of an open referendum. This is what I think would be...
You see, that's something that could be ironed out up front. You can't have a referendum with one hand tied behind your back, because that would be too easily disputed in the court. Say, well, hold on, you want to put this guardrail in place so that we can't then change it, but the guardrail itself is so convoluted, so difficult to implement, it will never be done, or vice versa, that you would change it. So no, I think there's more people involved in a democracy that would be able to ensure that if that was the route they were going to go down.
Can I butt in?
Yeah, sure.
One single word for you. Just one word.
Go on.
I think it's a 6-letter word. Yeah, 6-letter word for you. One single 6-letter word. Brexit. That's not the referendum we wanted. We were fighting for much more than that. We didn't get it. Because they didn't want to give it to the people who wanted Brexit. The people who said what we need is something that takes us out of the EU, takes us out immediately and completely and totally, and drop everything, then negotiate ranks.
That wasn't what it said.
But that is my point.
Oh, okay.
My entire point is it wasn't what we wanted. It wasn't what it said. We wanted to just, look, it's a take it or leave it thing. Are we in or are we out? let's vote. Let's give us a referendum that says if we vote, we're leaving the EHCR. We're leaving all that. We're leaving everything.
That's not what it said.
What are you trying to be? Are you doing this on purpose? I'm claiming that's
right,
not what it said.
Right. But
And
you
so
voted
that's
for
not
it
what we wanted.
nonetheless.
Because that's what we were offered. That we had to. It was a take it or leave it thing. If we didn't take that, we wouldn't be able to vote on Brexit. I'm telling you, that's exactly the same thing that's going to happen with your guardrail thing. They'll say, well, it's a take it or leave it. We've offered you the guardrail. You wanted the guardrail? This is it. This is what's on offer. Then a lot of people will be like, you know what? Something's better than nothing. Let's take it. So I'm saying you're being naive. And then he said, no. People will stand up for democracy. That's not how it works. How it works is
it works.
No,
but
how
whether
it
it
works
gets
is
implemented that way is the other thing that you're arguing, which I
I'm
get.
just giving
I
you
get
a
it.
concrete example. That's not how democracy should work the way you're saying. But I'm saying that's not how it actually works. So there's no point saying, well, oh, okay, but there is no but. Deal with reality.
Look
the
how
reality
it works in
is
Switzerland.
we're not in Switzerland.
I know
we're in the UK.
not. But they're looking at Australia as well. They're one of the countries looking at it, thinking about
they're
whether to
they're an outlier. Most countries, I was going to get a bit extreme there. Most countries are not Switzerland. Most countries are UK or worse. That is to say, the general trajectory, especially, give this to the what do you call this people, the Americans.
Ooh.
But there you go, oof. And as for the Chinese would be like,
Well, the Chinese have already got something similar anyway.
I was about to say, if I could have finished.
Okay.
The Chinese. the Chinese would be like, well, it's a start. You know, and you'd be there, Tony. The Democrat. So no, let's just be anyway. We kind of jumped the gun a little bit. There are problems with it, and actually, I think that one of the big and I was going to mention it before. That I said I'll mention it later. One of the big problems it doesn't even address at all is the problem of children getting a hold of smut that they really, really, really shouldn't be looking at, and I'm talking about porn.
Well, it does.
Sorry.
It's
not social media though. It says social media. Porn isn't social media.
Basically, it isn't just social media. That's the whole point. The whole point is that it isn't going to be used just to allow verification to social media. They're asking for all things to have it because the ID will be internet wide. So in other words, in order to sign on to your internet service provider, you have to prove your age. So then from then on, once you've proven your age, you then can access adult things if you're an adult. But if you're young, then there's so many things that actually no longer will be accessible to you, including dodgy sites. So in that respect, the law, the thing about it, the law is actually a good thing. But on the flip side, that means anonymity on the internet, you're basically gone. What's the point? There's no point hiding. You can't hide. So what about if you wanted to say something against the government online? They know who you are because you've verified. There's no, I mean, this is not a perfect solution, but you can see there's going to be good and bad. The good side is you have to verify who you are. So you're no longer going to have bots on all these different platforms because just the latest research, over 50% of internet traffic is not human. So you could be on a social media platform having an argument, and you're having an argument with a chat bot. You're not actually speaking to a fellow human. And that's...
I think. Sorry to. Yeah. In this episode, you're going to have to learn a little bit of jumping in. So I think that's actually very encouraging to learn, because maybe humans are not as stupid as I thought they were. Because some of the arguments are so daft that if it turns out to be a bot, I'd be like, phew! Yeah. I thought that was a literal buffoon. But anyway, and I think we're going to do this as a separate show another time, so we'll not go too deep into it now.
Yeah. But yeah,
the dead internet thing. We'll do that as a
yes,
separate show. Yes.
there is basically, just in a nutshell, what Tyre means by that is there is some evidence to show that the internet, not dead as such, but it's certainly not how it was. There are more bots that are online than there are humans. So you think you're talking to other humans when in fact you're not. You're just talking to bots, and they're designed to stir up animosity and arguments, and so sometimes you're online, you think, God, these guys are idiots, but they're not idiots because it's a bot. It's been designed to do that, to ensure that you respond negatively, and they're trying to steer you in certain directions. And if you were to take away all those bots, which is what the Australian model will basically imply, then that surely is a good thing, because then if you're on a platform, then you're talking to other humans rather than bots.
Anyway, to get back to this thing of yours, I want to push back on something you said.
Okay.
You said the Australian ban on social media ban is also deals with adult content. It does not. It says the scope, the specific law, the Online Safety Amendment Social Media Minimum Age Bill of 2024 requires social media platforms. There's a separate law that's separately going through their parliament called the Adult Content Age Verification. So we could have one without the other, or neither, or both.
Well, one's been passed.
Which one has been passed?
The internet one for the kids, for the social media one, that's been passed. That became law already, yeah. That's law now. And it's been implemented.
Okay. Well,
so
real-time verification coming up. All right, I'll just have a look at that. Yeah,
December it became law.
Oh, what December? This December or last
This
December?
December, yeah. December.
All right, fair enough. Okay,
yeah,
good.
it's just become law. And so, at 16. So basically, anyone under 16 cannot use social media, period. And
what does that mean, though? Hold on a second. What does that mean, can't use social media? What about your schools? I don't know, meeting room, if you like. General discussion platform. Each school has one, right? Like in the UK.
I don't know. But they can't go on social media for under 16, period.
I don't know how that would work, because if your school has got a media platform, which I think
they're going to have to change and go to a web page or something. But then the platform,
it's safer though. It is a school environment, so
yeah. So
I suppose they know who everyone is, because you roll it, you sign on with your student ID.
Yeah.
So it's not anonymous, and it was never anonymous anyway.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
So is this a freedom cost that they've done, or is it correct?
I think no. We don't let kids drive. So I mean, it's dangerous, and I think social media. We've done the experiment. We've seen the outcome. It's mental. It leads to mental health issues for far too many kids. Don't go anywhere near social media, and hopefully, the net result will be getting us back to how children used to be. Like, when we were young, just actually going out and smelling the grass and climbing trees and actually just being alive, man, is like not in front of a screen. Now, whether I may be going too far, because a lot of children play games. And by the way, this is one problem, or one of my problems, is that as a boomer, a proud boomer, by the way, I think you're a millennial or something. You said you were.
Millennial, just.
You're a millennial. Okay. So we're not actually the best people to be involved in this, because quite a lot of chatting goes on in the chat rooms of games.
Yes.
So are they stopping that? I don't think they can. There you go. So a lot of the chatting happens there. I had this particular student who learned almost everything that we know about the world from these blooming chat rooms. And some of the people he was chatting with must have been much older, because some of his opinions were very adult and adult in nature, and out there. From my point of view, he was the one I was telling you about his reaction to women, and like, I'm manosphere, I'm red pilled, I'm MGTOW and all that, but I'm not like we've got to corral the woman. We've got to put them in one. I was like, well, calm down. I mean, if you can shock me with your misogyny, you're misogynistic, baby. I'm trying to. There's something going on. So where are you getting that from? And he was like, but he didn't tell me, but it leaked that it's from these chat rooms when they're
Discord?
playing. No,
Discord
when you play something
server.
like I don't know. It was when you're playing things like, I'm not blaming the game, but when you're playing, is it not Game of Thrones? When you first person shooter games, very popular.
Yeah, they're popular. Yeah, indeed. See,
So
the
where do
thing
they
is-
chat? I don't know where they chat. Are they chatting on Discord
I don't know if
or
it's
does the
Discord
game
is
itself?
the one that has games, Discord, and it's a Discord server, and you can do quite a lot on it. At the moment, my understanding is that's not in the scope of this. However, the point is scope creep. We touched on it at the beginning of the show. So, could this just be the first tranche?
It would have to
And
be.
You can see it all spread. Once they put this in, then it will spread, and you can see it is the thin edge of the wedge, because it will get bigger and they will encompass more areas. And the point is, they're saying that you're going to have a digital ID for biometric age estimation as well. So, but for all users. Because not just the kids, the adults have to prove themselves too.
I know. That's
This
why
is
I'm.
amazing.
That's why I'm laughing. That's why I'm smiling, because I'm going to do something, and I don't know if it's going to get us banned and deplatformed and all that. But I'm going to do something now, and
Please don't get
where
us
the
banned.
show. Where the show that what is it?
I know, but we're still within the bounds of the
Well,
law.
whatever. And I'm a boomer. So here you go. Hey, here he goes. I'm going to do something now. I saw. You remember I said you are just starting. Now I think you understand Beijing more. Confucius, he very wise. You control your internet. He said this. Confucius said, control the internet. You're not a bot, are you, man? What the hell?
Oh,
See,
dear.
you see? So we understand. It's like, well, have they got a point? I mean, I don't like the idea that, look, you can't even use a VPN in China.
No.
You need a license or something. You can't, and who's going to give you a license? So that's really, for me, it's too intrusive. I wouldn't like it. So what do we do? Do we not? I mean, we've got to take one for the team here. I think we try to fight for as much freedom as we can get, but I think it will probably be a good thing if the internet knows who we are. If the internet knows who we are, I think it'll be a good thing. I really do. I mean, I like my anonymity. Anonymity. I like my anonymity.
Weren't you the
Because
one
I'm
that
very-
said you wanted to move away from Microsoft because of that reason?
I know. Look, sorry. I reserve the right to contradict myself. I don't care. Okay. I know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if I have a choice, I will move away from Microsoft because I'm responsible. All I do is use very fierce language when I'm upset. That's it. That's what I do. But I don't bully, I don't ostracize and things like that. I believe in free speech. So no one is going to lose their freedom of speech because I'm in control of the internet. But at the same time, the kids get in and they're not ready yet for that. Let them be, I'd actually say let them be in uni. So 18, not even 16. Let them be 18.
Well, 16,
And then when
you
they're
can get
18
married, you can join the army at 16, you can get married at 16, you can't drink alcohol, but you can still do those, and in some countries at 16 you can own a gun. But this, you see, what's happened to free speech? Because
Free
let's put it
speech has
this
turned
way.
out to be dangerous in the
Well,
hands
yeah.
of children.
Well,
Hands
no.
of children.
But, okay, but think about it. In order to police the internet, because this is what this is, you've now taken anonymity out of it. So you can't. What's happened to whistleblower? You're going to have no whistleblowers, and that's part and parcel for allowing bad things to be highlighted without in fear of their own health.
I think it'll be fine. I'll tell you why. Because I think whistleblowers will go back to pasting things. Like before the internet, what do people do? They would paste things on notice boards. We'll just go back to notice boards. Flyers and things. Just print out a whole bunch of flyers, just hand them out at newspaper, at train stations and things. People will still blow the whistle, just not quite as easily as they can now with the internet. Or publish from a locality, because there'll always be one locality that's making money by not requiring your what do you call it, your ID, your digital ID. So you just post from there. So I don't buy that a lot. I think that'd be fine.
To me, yes, it's always good intentions, but I'm still fearful now, because before I was happy for a digital ID for those people that haven't got existing identification. So if you haven't got a passport, you haven't got a driving license, then the next thing is you've got to have a digital ID. Makes sense. If you have to work and you've come overseas, you haven't got, like I said, you haven't got a passport, digital ID is the next thing. So you've got to have something, right? But now if it becomes ubiquitous that everyone has to have one, regardless of whether you've got previous, passport stuff, it's a replacement or an addition, then I'm starting to get nervous, because then they can tie you onto the internet, which is fine. You prove who you are, keep your nose clean. But what does keeping your nose clean mean to the authorities? Because if they create a digital exile of you, let's say you said something.
Well, you know that some of the words I use are a bit controversial. Private.
Indeed. And I get done because of association. That happened to me when I went to America.
By the way, it's worse now. It's worse now.
Is it?
It's a lot worse. I don't know if this evening, just before, about 10 minutes before we came on, you have to provide telephone numbers and 5 years of your social service
social media.
Social media. So we got
wow. To get into America.
To get into America. And I said, so my joke was to send to my friends and family. Well, if I didn't send it to you, don't worry, I will. I just realized it's friends and family, and I didn't send it to Tony.
Thank you. I know where I stand now.
Well, that's the whole point. I'm telling you, I'm open about it. And so I said to them, don't just lie on your form. Don't mention me, because you mention me, you ain't never get. You're never getting in, okay? Don't do it. So it's a bit of a digression, but if it's load up in time quickly enough, I'll tell you just some of the top. Finally, sorry, it is insanely submitting your past 5 years social media to enter the US as a tourist is only a small part of the proposed upcoming requirements. You also need to give your DNA. And to be eligible for ESTA, E-S-T-A, meaning those who don't need a visa, for instance, from the EU or UK.
Yeah.
All social media accounts for the last 5 years, your biometrics and your DNA, your phone numbers for the last 5 years, all email addresses for the last 10 years, IP addresses and metadata from your submitted photos, names of your family members, parents, spouse, siblings, and children. All your family members' numbers, phone numbers for the last 5 years, your family members' dates of birth, their places of birth, and their residences. All your business phone numbers for the last 5 years, and all your business email addresses for the last 10 years. And that's for the ESTA people. For the non-ESTA, it's longer.
There's supposed to be a World Cup in the US next year. Is this a requirement for all people travelling there?
They've already started asking me a lot of questions about that. Oh, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to share this with you. I know it's not part of the discussion right now, but why not? I mean, we do digress on this show. I'll send this to Tony now. This is the government's own, this is to say the US government's own webpage on that. So we're going to publish that. Have a look at it yourselves, so you know that we're not fibbing.
Okay.
We wouldn't even
The
do
thing
it
is,
anyway.
you see, this is all without a digital ID. Do you see what I mean? That's what I'm saying. They can do. People are fear mongering. Oh well, digital ID will control everything. Blah blah blah. Well, it won't in the outset because look, they can do all this stuff anyway, whether you have a digital ID or not. So all the digital ID will do is just make your life a little bit more difficult when you're online. But it's yeah, but I'm more concerned about the whistleblower because whistleblowers are the ones who actually highlight problems in companies, in organisations, so that the wider audience can be made aware of it. We know we did a show on it about Boeing. Do you remember the whistleblower at Boeing?
Yeah.
He
No longer with us, poor
revealed
guy.
bad practices which were putting customers on flights in danger because of the practices at Boeing at the time. Thankfully, those things have been corrected, but back then it wasn't right, and the whistleblower who spoke out, he was able to do it at the time. Now, if we have digital IDs that then authenticate who you are online, so everyone knows who you are, how can you anonymously put anything on? You can't. So that is lost, and I think that is more scary than all the other stuff, because you cannot say things in safety, let's put it that way, without you being compromised. And I think there has to be better ways of allowing kids to be able to use social media after a certain age, rather than this blanket way of verifying who they are. I don't know what that way is, but I don't know if this is the answer. Short term, if it stays in its current form, okay, but I'm a bit fearful that it won't be the just bit. It will take on scope. It will get bigger, and all in the thin veil of security, and we will eventually sleepwalk to authoritarian regimes throughout the West.
We're not there already.
Well, but even more so, and that is what will happen. That's my view. Okay. Have we done that topic? Do you want to talk about the next one? Yeah?
Well, I was just asking
You
AI.
want to sum up? You can sum up.
I was just asking AI, how do people, given that China's internet is heavily regulated, often called the Great Firewall, how do people safely whistleblow? And it says
They don't.
China basically no. It says the channel. There are government channels for safely reporting corruption, fraud, or violations of market regulations. So the government itself will protect you if you use their channel.
Oh, I'm not sure about that one. Only if you can
people won't
whistleblow a
use
company.
it, people won't use it if it's not true. So
Yeah,
it will
but-
actually destroy itself.
Well, unless the person gets bumped off, and you never know what happens to them, That's my fear. Yeah, a whistleblower. See, nothing to see here. Everything is sorted. Where is Jonathan? I don't know. I haven't seen him for
I haven't
years.
seen him around for a while.
Indeed.
Especially
Right.
the people who ask about it online.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very funny. It's like that word. What is that word that you're not supposed to? Is this say out loud or read out loud? Do you remember the people who disappeared in early America? When I say early America, I mean early European invasion of America. There were these people who were left because they were running out of food, and they sent a team back to England to go and get more supplies. And when the team returned, no one was there. There was a single word scratched into a tree. And when people supposedly, if you want to call it an urban myth or whatever it is, supposedly when you say that word, something happens to you. So that's why I'm not saying the word.
No, don't say it. Our audience want to know either. Don't say it. Don't say it.
So it's very interesting. And it was the basis of an American horror, you know the TV series American Horror? It was
I've heard of
lovely
it. I've
series.
not watched
Yes.
it, but I've heard.
So it was one of the seasons was based on this word. So there you go. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, summary. Do you think Australia are on the thin edge of the internet freedom wedge?
They are, but not in the way that it's because the way the question is posed is, are they on the thin edge of destroying internet freedom or something? I think we're going to have to adjust, and they are on the thin edge because they're bringing it first, and it will eventually evolve into something that we can all live with, and I think we will be better for it. I mean, I don't like it, but I think we need to have it.
Well, the internet now has become a bit of a cesspit, so we have to acknowledge that, and this may, I don't know, just a hypothesis, create a two-tier internet. I think you'll have a authenticated version, so you authenticate and go in, and then you've got one where you don't, so that will remain, but that would be the wild west. So
more like the Onion network.
the Onion network, what's that?
Is it the Onion? You know, where you
The dark
go,
web.
The dark web, yeah.
Yeah, dark web, yeah.
You go in
See,
there
that's
and you're on
there
your own,
now.
man.
It's just that will become the web, and then you've got this sanitized version where people can go in and safely converse, transact, with knowing that everyone's authenticated. So I think it will end up being a two-tier system. So the internet.
Yeah, well, that's pretty rough, man. That's like being in the Wild West and walking into a saloon where everyone's already drunk before you even get there.
I
So
know.
it's super
But
dodgy, man.
That is what will happen. I think that's the only way that it will survive. It will have two-tier internet. But that's just my view. Right. Let's move on to another topic. And this one we want to discuss is something that's happened recently that you, Tayo, have wondered whether it's actually a civilization handover. Have we just witnessed that as a civilization handover? So if you want to explain, what is this civilization handover? What's happened?
Well, what has happened is that due to the sanctions that the West has imposed on Russia, and the fact that it's not that easy for people, easy or safe even for people to go flitting into Russia. When I say safe, I mean safe back in the West. I don't mean safe in Russia. You're perfectly safe in Russia, but you might be looked at askance upon your return to the West. So why did you go to Russia? Are you Putin's friend? Blah blah blah. That sort of sort of thing. So the Russians recently were enjoying visa-free entry to China. And in return, they have reciprocated by offering the Chinese visa-free entry into Russia. So, looking at the figures, you've now got 1.4 billion Chinese who are able to enter Russia without a visa. They can stay for a month before having to return. And even though it is time boxed, because 1.4 is quite a lot. I mean, if they all come in there, it's going to be quite a
bit of a problem, yeah.
A bit of a palaver to get them to leave again voluntarily when you yourself are only 160 million.
Yeah.
I think it's less, a few actually. I think it's 140
No, I
million.
think it is about 160, yeah.
160
right.
million. Okay, so yeah, a little difficult to get 1.4 billion to voluntarily leave. So it's time box. It will end in September next year. But in the meantime, what the idea is that there will be a pivoting of tourism and interactions between the Russians and the Chinese. From the Russian point of view, the positives would be that someone else funds the infrastructure and growth of their Far East, because all the good stuff has been grown around the western part of Russia, because the money was coming in from the west, and proximity is everything. But the pivot towards the east means Vladivostok and areas like that those will
Start to
receive.
flourish. Yeah.
They will start to flourish
Yeah.
if it works. But there's a big if, which is jumping ahead of myself a little bit. But as I'm on the topic, and there's a name for it. I think it's a very weird name called empty tourism or something. It's on my screen, but I can't find it quickly enough for this. So what empty tourism is the Chinese have been noted for their tourism not being all that it's cracked up to be. It's not good. It's not that great, because what they do is this: you got Chinese people on Chinese aircraft come into your country and go and stay in Chinese hotels.
Yeah.
And so all the money is being spent. All the money is just circulating around.
Back. Yeah.
And it's not really doing anything for your.
Well, they will have to spend money in Russia itself, yeah.
Yes,
but not as much initially as they'd hoped. Even though Chinese are reasonably good tourists, they quite spend high when they do travel.
Oh yeah, I've seen them in London, man. It's astonishing.
They spend a lot.
Crikey.
They're normally very.
And it's
affluent,
all what you call this the designer stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Huge quantities of it.
Incredible. Yeah, they do spend a lot when they travel. So Russia will benefit in that respect. But you're right, a lot of the travel is done to Chinese-owned hotels already. Although, if this has opened up, there will naturally have to go to Russian hotels and chains, because there's just not enough Chinese ones.
You just be serious. The way I like to be, you just say, look, you just have a very serious policy about how much of any hotel can be foreign owned. If you keep it down to 10%, then that's that.
Although there's a bit of a challenge, both countries are scrambling to find staff who speak each other's language. Because
Mandarin isn't that easy to learn. Although I started learning, it's fun to learn, but
it's a challenge. Just put it that way. Natively, they haven't really had a lot of, porous border where people have travelled to and from for tourism between both countries. This is fairly a new thing, but looking forward, let's just say if it works out, it will be a huge plus for Russia, because obviously they've lost all the Western tourists, as Ty has already said. So it will certainly boost their economy. And then
what would they prefer to learn going forward? Would they prefer to learn English, French, German, or just Mandarin?
I think it'll still be English and Mandarin rather than the others. The others will
be... so give it, say, 100 years' time?
100 years.
In 100 years, what's the point of the English? Exactly. You turn your back on the West. No, you can look forward and you can say they're actually turning their back on the West. It's becoming government policy. That they're saying the West is an unreliable partner.
Indeed.
So they're turning their back on them. They're finding China first of all, and then there's the Far East all the way down to Vietnam. Vietnam, by the way, what the hell is going on in Vietnam? They're doing so well, given. I mean, they're only 100 million themselves, 120 million or something.
Yeah, because they're becoming the alternative.
They're booming. Talk about a boom town.
I know. They're becoming a cheap producer, because China has become more affluent, so they're not getting...
They've gone up the value chain, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right. Whereas Vietnam isn't. Vietnam is still near the bottom, so they're becoming the new China in essence. So they've got a few years of growth. All the companies are looking for a cheap manufacturer somewhere, and Vietnam are now still able to offer cheap labour. Where China, unfortunately, as you say, they've gone up the chain, that the workers expect more, so it's not as cheap as it used to be. There is, going back to the Russia-China sort of collaboration, there is going to be interesting how Russia will accept payments from tourists, because Visa and MasterCard, which did operate in both countries, still operates in China, but now no longer operates in Russia. That's a challenge, because Russia use Mir, which is a different payment system, but China uses Alipay and WeChat. So getting a fast scale interoperability between the two is a bit of a friction point at the minute. They're still having to work that out. So they're still early days. So yeah, Chinese will have to go to old-fashioned rubles and pay with Russian currency.
I don't think so. I think Russia will be quite happy. I think Russia will be quite happy to take payment in renminbi, or yen, if you like, because they do so much business.
They're not equipped to do it. That's the problem. This has come forward, but the tourists are starting to come in already, and it's like, oh, we've allowed it to happen, but we haven't ticked all the boxes to think of all the positions, because at the end of the day, the whole point of tourism coming in is that they spend money, and if they can't pay because the systems of payment are a barrier, then that's going to cause a challenge. So it's not insurmountable, but it's certainly a challenge for Russia when you've got all these Chinese tourists in, and they're going to have to buy rubles while they're there. I mean, that's the only short-term fix, rather than spend Chinese currency.
I thought they had the SIPs or something. I'm just checking up on it now, but I didn't think it was a problem, because what is it now that China Russia trading takes almost 100%. It's something in the high 90s now is done in local currencies. So
okay, I don't know about that.
No, I do know about that. It's the intention is that between the two of them, they'll be one of the first BRIC countries to do its entire trade in non-local. Only local currencies. Only local currencies.
Okay.
So it's not even against the dollar or the euro. It's like, no, it's you and me. Why are we using other people's currencies? And then this is why the BRICS currency itself is still, they really need it. Why don't we just do local currencies? Because if we're all in BRICS,
the whole point is that you streamline these things, and that's why even if it's you can't use your local currency, you use a international one, which has been the dollar. It makes transactions far, far easier. If you're having to rely with local one, you haven't got the mechanism to then get that money exchanged, and it honestly, it adds hurdles and hurdles to the process, and they think, well, it's not worth it. And then that puts a barrier to trade. So if BRICS, as you've said on other occasions, is to work, which I'm still not sure, they have to agree on a currency and create a currency. That's almost, in itself, that's the biggest bottleneck, let's be honest. That will be the thing that doesn't let it kick off, because unless they can use a currency already and use that as the stable currency for the BRICS, then that'll work. But if they have to come up with a separate one, it won't work. It just won't. To get it off the ground, it's just not viable. But that's a separate topic. We won't go down there.
So what it says here is, as named by the Ukrainian intelligence service, so take it for what it is. It says there is called the China track, or shadow banking, because if it's not Western, it must be shadow, because we don't know what's going on, ergo it's shadow. It's so hubristic. The mechanism, large-scale netting schemes. How it works: money doesn't cross borders. A Russian exporter sells oil to China. The Chinese importer pays yuan into a Chinese account. A Chinese tourist buys a hotel room in Moscow. The Russian hotel gets paid from that Russian exporter's ruble pile in Moscow. The ledgers are balanced privately. No SWIFT, no Western eyes. That's that SIPS thing. And SIPS is the Chinese thing, and it takes seconds to complete a transaction as opposed to days to complete a transaction with SWIFT. So it's actually, you're talking about friction.
No.
I'll do that. Let me just get the details.
SWIFT takes seconds. It's purposely days, so they earn interest off the money while it's not in either account. It's not because it's not functionally able to. It's designed that way. How do you think they make the money? How do you think the banks make the money?
Hold on. So it can take seconds if they want to, but they don't want to. So on a day-to-day basis, hang on.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, what does it actually take? Days or seconds?
Seconds.
But you just said that they hold it back for days.
No. They hold it back for depending on which system you're using. There's a faster payment system, which is within an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the old system, which is cheaper, and it takes 5 days. So you don't pay any fee.
So just to clarify, there is one track which takes 5 days. Whether, for whatever reason.
I think it's down to 3. I don't think it's 5, but yeah, Swift system.
So for whatever reason, there's one track in Swift that takes 3 days. True or false?
So yeah.
Okay, fine. But in SIPs it takes seconds. So that's just that. There's no, the niceties and the finest.
No,
we
but
don't
Swift
need to get into.
Does it in seconds as well?
It can do it in seconds.
No, it does do it in seconds.
No, because if it takes me 3 days because I'm paying less, it takes 3 days. So whether it can.
If you want to pay the fee, it takes seconds.
Yeah, if I don't want to pay the fee, it takes 3 days.
Yeah, because they.
Okay, but if I'm doing SIPs, it just takes seconds.
Yeah,
whether I want to pay or not.
Anyway.
I don't care. It just takes seconds.
There you go. It's the same. It's the same.
No, it's not
trying to make a thing here.
No, I'm not trying to make a thing. You're making it sound like, I don't have to jump through any hoops with SIPs. It takes what it takes. Now with
They'll pay you any money. There's a cheap tier that takes time. They're gonna.
How can you just invented that out of nowhere? I've
No,
never heard of it.
Because it's a. How do they make their money then in the transaction? How?
By taking much less because they are not capitalists.
You're making an assumption.
Well, no, I'm making an assumption, but I'm only following your footsteps. So I think it's perfectly okay. If you're going to bring in assumptions, I can bring in mine too.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
We're getting to the top of the hour here. It's not as clean and as simple as Tyre has made out, but okay.
Or as difficult and complex as Tony is pretending that it isn't. So
it's not difficult and complex at all.
It can take 3 days. Yes, it can take 3 days in Swift. It cannot take 3 days in SIPs.
How do you know that?
Because that's the great thing about everybody saying the great thing about SIPs is that it takes seconds, but it takes a day. In fact, they said 5 days in.
Show me the receipt.
No, you show me. No. You show me the receipt.
Claim.
Show me your 3 days. Show me your 3 days. You said it was 3 days, not 5.
Okay, we'll do it offline. The SIP one and how long it takes to do the transaction. We'll do that offline.
And then the first thing we're going to deal in our next section, which I think we should actually have this section, is who's going to eat crow. So we have a new section called Eating Crow. I'm happy to let my question time go, but we're going to have an Eat Crow section. I think I love this. This is a great evolution. And then we can have people writing in and betting on the next show. That we heard your show and we know who's going to eat crow, and we're making book on it if it's legal. I don't know if that's legal. That'll be hilarious.
Oh dear. Anyway, we've unfortunately. Do you want to sum up very quickly? Do you think it's a good thing where we've got Russia as now? Is it a civilization handover? I don't think it's quite that bad.
I believe it is. I believe it's the first step to the center of gravity moving away from the west and moving eastwards. That is inevitable anyway. It was always going to happen.
Okay, I'm not so sure. It's an interesting development, and who knows where it goes. But I've not got a crystal ball, so at this stage, it's still early days. Anyway, if you've loved this episode, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexplained twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tayo, and we are the TNT Talk Show. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.
Don't forget to tune in and find out who's going to eat crow.